Hey guys, I'm Evan Christman, co-founder and creative lead at Smash House Creative Events Agency in Southern California. I am the 2021 Site SoCal chapter president, and I am here to talk with Patrick Delaney, one of our past presidents, to ask him a couple questions leading up to our 50th celebration for Site Global. So tell me a little bit about your involvement in Site Global, when you were president, and how you kind of got into it.
I was, and I say this with due respect, I had the privilege of being the president in 1992, I think it was. And I was also president of the foundation. So I have a unique status well, one of the unique statuses insofar as I was the first president of Site Global that wasn't resident in the United States and then went on to lead the Site Foundation as well. But I got in because, like most things, I think in life, I fell into the opportunity of being in the incentive business. I was always involved in hotel and tourism, and then went to work for Irish Tourism in North America. And my boss, Brian Stack, a very prominent member of Site and a past president in his own right. And he introduced me to Site, and I got to know this wonderful collection of fully developed personalities, and felt, I want to hang out with these people. They're really cool, and they certainly know an awful lot more than I do. And as probably like your own journey through the Site chapter and SoCal, you before you knew it, you were on a committee, and before you knew that, everybody else was walking backwards, and you were standing. Yeah, your turn to take the helm and give back to an amazing industry, an amazing group of people.
Yes, I got. It was really interesting that you mentioned that you kind of fell into it, and that's exactly how I kind of got into it as well. You know, I first coming out of college was doing a lot of digital marketing, website design, and I actually had someone who was a third party planner that was looking for a new registration type website for events, and they saw what I was doing with responsive web design and being able to create these custom registration sites for people, and he brought me into the industry. Was like, I need this in my work, and basically just from doing that stuff, when they needed extra help, I just kind of started planning here and there, and really learning the industry that way. And so it's really interesting that you say that you fell into it, because I feel like same thing happened to me.
I think if we actually get a chance, as you will over this period of time, if you go through most of the senior leadership in Site, you'll find that everybody has had mentors and people who they've been fortunate enough to meet, and kind of going, wow, that's something. I really got to learn more about this person, and what they do. And I mean, your trajectory is absolutely typical, and what an interesting start and very appropriate skill set you have. I'm very jealous of you.
Let's get into some of the hard hitting questions here. What is the biggest change that you've seen in the incentive travel industry in the past 10 or 20 years?
I actually I did like you up to you start asking hard questions. So Evan, you've kind of gone down in my estimation. You're supposed to lead me into something kind of nice and easy. I saw that question and I panicked because I thought, God, I have no idea. Because on one level, it's always I've a phrase I often use. It's not about B2C or B2B. It's about H to H. It's about human to human. And in many respects, the core elements of an incentive travel are still the same. It's finding the appropriate understanding, putting together a program that helps to set clear goals that are attainable and measurable, and then matching those goals with an amazing travel experience in a destination that's really going to motivate behavioral change. So that hasn't changed. Fundamentally, it's still core to the nature of incentive travel. I suppose what has changed is, I suppose, a realization about the power of incentive travel, that actually it does work and it can change behavior, and you can achieve very significant business goals using it. I think the whole measurement aspect has come much more into relief and is much more focused. And then practically the kind of things that motivate people reflect the changes in society. I have to tell you that when I'm born in Ireland, and as a consequence, I'm a man, and as 99.9% of all Irish males play golf. I don't, right? And it's just it's just one of those many flaws I have. And when I was growing up, and I remember being at various events in the United States, the when the pro one of the program elements was always be golf for the men, and the women would go and learn how to cook, and I would go off with the women because I had no interest in golf, and those kind of gender specific experiences, they're way out now. Whereas if you go to any program, you'll fight the men to get on the cookery courses, and I remember being in Taos, and I was off to see this. Everybody was going to play one of those wonderful Arizona courses, and I went off to do the cooking course with some of the partners who happen to be primarily male or female, and the instructors. I said, God, we had lunch. Where you have lunch after, and we're all sitting around. I'm thinking, you're so good. Do you do this all the time? And he said to me, no, I only do this on Thursdays. And I said, oh, what do you do in the balance of the time? And he said, well, I'm a nuclear physicist in Los Alamos. And I thought, you're pulling my leg. No, he wasn't. And that was another kind of great insight for me, insofar as the wonderful thing about travel is you get to meet people from all walks of life, and really interesting people who are not monodimensional, who are passionate, and you get to learn from them. So that was a long way of saying, I think one of the biggest changes in terms of the participants is the gender mix, the racial mix, the much more level of high participation, the emphasis on CSR. People are looking for transformative experiences, and incentive travel gives you that. So I think that's been a very significant change, along with I suppose, the appreciation of the power of the process itself.
Awesome. Well, I have to say, for your first hardball question, you nailed it. That was awesome. I'm gonna give you yes. I'm gonna throw you a softy one here real quick, and until before we get to the next hard one. What is your favorite incentive program you've been a part of?
You know, um, Again, I've been around a little bit of time, so I've had many, many experiences, and I've participated in or run programs. Actually, I was just reflecting on this recently with somebody else, on every continent, well, on 5 continents. And so, of course, being a Irish, I slipped that in before, and I'm going to slip it in again. I'm going to mention Ireland, and I'm going to mention a program we did for a client nearly 15 years ago, I think now, would you believe it? But it comes to mind because last week I got a call from this client who lives in Hawaii, and he was just checking in and saying, how is things, and how you doing, and reflecting on life. And he said, I just really had such an amazing time when we came to Ireland. And I thought, wow, that's so typical of an incentive travel program. And yeah, and we can't, like, he's never given, it's an end user client, so we've had no more business from him, in that sense. It's not an agency. But when I reflect on that program, and the kind of I suppose the characteristics of an incentive travel program, where it often happens. I was a DMC in that stage. And one, you can really become genuine friends with your customers. You build an amazing bond. Two, I think you get exposure. This program was a large program. It had some very unique aspects. It was nearly 900 people, of which 300 were children. So a little bit different from the classic incentive travel program in that respect. And in Ireland at that stage, it was a very large program. So we had to create something very unique of how you bring everybody together, but also, because of the nature of the country, how you break people into smaller groups to have those intimate experiences. So we kind of came up with this um, it was creative idea of breaking everybody into clans, into clown, which is a Gaelic word for families, and putting them out around the country, and then bringing them together in one venue in Dublin for the final part. So that's another characteristic of the incentive travel and of my memory, is that it forces you into um, being very creative at looking at what would be initially an impossible task, and then you try and see, well, how can you make this work, and you make it work sometimes by breaking down the problem into smaller, or the challenge into smaller units. And we were able to create these villages and really create a great sense of community. I suppose the other thing that reminded me of that program as well was that you just never know where the business is going to come from, because we got a call. My business partner got a call from this client, just checking out, hey, listen, I don't think Ireland would work for that size group, but would you be interested in pitching? And I was actually visiting my brother-in-law in the States at the time of Christmas holidays. And for us people in Ireland, Christmas is a time we don't work. Like we start Christmas at about the 9th of December and we come back about the 6th of January. And that's Christmas for us. And you're not supposed to interrupt us in that period. Yeah, we're family, we're get together, etc. But of course, another classic thing about incentive travel is incentive travel doesn't sleep, and you don't know. You always have to be on. And I remember getting a call. I was in New York, and I was staying in New York because I'd lived there for 11 years, and I was visiting some buddies. But I was on my way to my brother-in-law in Jersey, and I'm trying to make this call back to this client who was based in Hawaii. I'm on the East River. I don't know what do you know on the East River. I have got 4 kids. I've got a wife who's kind of managing these young children. I've got suitcases. I've got a phone in my ear, and it's a big phone because in those days, mobile phones were big phones. And I'm trying to cross the road. I'm talking to the client. I'm getting excited. I'm trying to keep my wife from throwing me into the river, having one of the children run off or be knocked down by the taxi man who's kicked us out. I'm trying to get the boat to New Jersey. So, all of those things about incentive travel is that ability, you're really to push you. And then the other great things about that program I remember was that it allowed me to bring my country, my destination alive for that client, and the pride and the pressure to find. The great thing about a DMC is they know intimately their country, and they the job is to find the match between those experiences and what that client really wants. And we were lucky with this client because he wanted things that had never been done, which is a phrase that's often used, but you're not often put to your pin of collar. But this person wanted really unique experience. So we were able to bring people into Northern Ireland for the first time. And we were able they wanted to meet some, at that stage, we were in an unfortunate situation because we had quite a lot of conflict. So we were managed to bring a lot of those key people like Jerry Adams together and meet with this client. And we actually had some, it was a real, I suppose, corporate social responsibility. Was a real way of leaving a legacy where we were bringing two sides together. Now, it was a very strained meetings, but we did we brought all of the key people up to Northern Ireland we met and heard about our troubles. And we also, I suppose, had a chance in this program to meet some and deal with some really international talent because it was a good budget. And we had people like Mitch Albom, who wrote the famous the books, 5 People You'd Like to Meet in Heaven. And we also had Jack Cranfield, who wrote Chicken Soup. Now these were famous in those days, but a chance to meet those kind of people. Actually, we had a director, Comey, from the FBI, who was not quite in his exalted position, which he was in recent times. He came over as well. So there was, again, for us in Ireland, it was great to be able to work with international talent. So all of these attributes, I suppose, remind me that if you're going to be involved in this business, then it does push you to the limit, but it also gives you back an amazing professional and personal growth. So that was a long answer to a short question. Yeah, it was one of those great opportunities to. We also had Van the Man from Belfast playing, who is a really interesting character. A big. I see you're a guitarist. You love music, so you'll know that Van Morrison is an icon for us. But let's say he's also a fully developed character personality, and I learned about all kinds of interesting things of sound checks and how he does the sound check with his back to everybody. And you need to have the car waiting, running, so that when he's still before he ends, he has to be gone before he ends the set. So, it's so exciting to be involved in this business because you as I say, you get a chance to meet international stars, but genuinely completing the circle. There am I getting to be with some really very senior people from the United States who are key business owners in their own right, and their willingness and their openness to learn about my country, and the obligation on me to dive deeply into creating experiences which reflected their desire for genuine transformative experiences, which I think incentive travel is being more and more recognized, that it's a real opportunity to transform people's lives personally and professionally, and the destinations they go, because real legacy is left behind.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you had the opportunity to be the site foundation president as well. So I think this, although this is one of your hardball questions, I think, you should be able to nail this one pretty easily. What in your mind is the greatest contribution that the site foundation has made to this industry?
Well, the site foundation is the other side of the coin for the site global. I mean, and it was specifically set up, and I was lucky to be involved in setting up the foundation, because we obviously, with the tax regimes in the United States, we needed a way in which to gather um, resources, funds, to for advocacy and for research, and to prove the merit of incentive travel, and also to support the various activities, or some appropriate activities, the educational activities of site, in terms of improving the professional quality, because ultimately we are a professional society. We're a society that's dedicated to education, to proving the efficacy of, as I say, of incentive travel. So I think recently, and I'm just one president, and an amazing board members over the years, and amazing presidents who have kind of been very focused on that goal, and haven't kept taken their eye off that core goal of raising funds for advocacy, for research. And the incentive travel index recently, that's I think in the last 3 or 4 years, that's been expanded. Amazing statistics that help us all do be better at our own jobs, and also prove the efficacy of the medium of incentive travel. Things like supporting the chapters. I mean, SoCal, a very famous chapter and a very active chapter, but the foundation's been able to support chapters in very specific projects. The foundation helps to support Motivate, again, a great source of content. I read it all the time because I'm always learning. I think, oh, I never knew that. So I think the foundation is the opposite side of the coin. You can't have one without the other. We work hand in glove, because I think both organizations, if we can call them separate organizations, or both bodies, both group of people, are dedicated to a different but overall the same goal, and arriving at the same place in different ways. But I think the foundation is, it's a privilege. And the frustration is not enough people actually understand what the foundation does. Sometimes they only come across it in things like the David Riddell scholarship. And again, David Riddell I knew very, very well as a person, and what an amazing man, and a real visionary. And again, for the foundation to be able to create the funds to support his scholarship, which in turn supports the new leadership, the new members, or members in need. It just, so many positive touch points of helping to move sight forward in a very positive and efficacious way.
Awesome. Absolutely love that. So tell me a little bit about where you see things kind of going now that you know, I guess you could say we're starting to climb out of this pandemic. And obviously, incentive travel has been hugely affected our industry over the last year and a half. Do you think things are going to come back pretty shortly here? Do you think it's kind of going to be like maybe another, I mean, if you want to put a timestamp, 6 to 12 months, or what's kind of your thoughts on where it's going?
Our current president, Aoife Delaney, who actually is the first president who came from the young leader community. And she always uses the phrase of, the crystal ball, and be careful of he who looks at the crystal ball ends up eating broken glass. So I'm going to tell you, for the first thing, is I don't know, because I think the state of play is a function of the state of location. And it's a very different world out there. And I know Said used the phrase, if he uses it regularly, build back better. So I think that building back better is going to have a different profile in different locations. in terms of timing, in the United States, and congratulations, and thank God you're being so effective. It looks like you are getting a very high degree of vaccination. And by mid-June, I think the president has said, the majority of people will be vaccinated. Um, in Europe, we are a little bit behind that, and I think that we're in a different state of play in Australasia and in Asia. So they're different destinations are in a different levels of openness. And I think the first thing what we have to do is all about confidence. So once the clients are confident, and we as corporate planners are able to rightly look our legal teams, but more especially our moral teams, that our duty of care is being exercised, then I think there's absolutely no doubt that there's a willingness, there's a pent up demand. Because for sure, I don't know about you, Evan, if I ever was any doubt about whether or not, you know, incentive travel works, or that people want to get together, notwithstanding the wonderful benefits of, Zoom, the other online platforms, or even hybrid can be used very effectively as well for expanding our audience. But there's nothing that beats that face to face, the chance to be there. It's like, you again, using your own, great background in terms of music. It's fantastic to listen to high definition vinyl, great CDs, but to be at the concert, to feel the atmosphere, to hear that sound, to be with your friends, and to be part of that experience, you can't beat that. And I think that's come into relief, because for all of the benefits, and I wouldn't in any way underestimate the benefits of hybrid and virtual, and they can be really used effectively to augment the live experience. But the live experience, people have said, yeah, that's the one. That's the incentive travel experience. And if you marry that, I think, with a new sense of kind of purpose, I think companies and individuals are much more purposeful. I mean, I think we all collectively understand, and in the Building Back Better, we can't just do the same. We must look at our footprint, our carbon footprint, our legacy that we leave to communities, different destinations around the world. So I think I'd be very optimistic in terms of the timing. I think it's a question of knowing what your source market is, and what the level of government regulation is, and we'll slowly get back into the new normal. But I think that would be a function really of, probably realistically, not until next year. It'll be domestic this year, or certainly regional or local. And then I think as people get more confident, that's where it'll open up. But as Aoife always says, I'm not, I'm not into crystal ball.
Well, Patrick Delaney, thank you so much for being with us today and letting me ask you some of those hard hitting questions. I really appreciate you spending some time with us.